Hello, denizens of the internet. Welcome to this episode. You're wondering, where's the high-quality video and the super deluxe audio thingy that's hidden all the time? Well, I'm doing this because I'm going to be talking to my overseas friend, Pietro Caruso.
Hi there.
Who I met over YouTube. He reached out to me, asked me if I would test some of his Hackintosh utilities, and I said yes. And that turned into this particular video. So stay tuned. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be technical. So you have been warned. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. So Pietro, welcome. So
Hi.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. I am Pietro Caruso. I am an Italian Hackintosher engineering student, coder, and a lot of other stuff related to computers because I am a total computer enthusiast for all the things, but especially for Hackintosh things. I love to install macOS on all sorts of computers, and I love also to help other people to do it.
And we met, was it over my videos or was it something else?
Yes, it was under your videos. I sent you a comment. I said, hey, do you want to try my app? You said, yes, contact me on my website. And of course, we exchanged emails for a while. Then we switched over to Facebook chat. And then we are here.
And I have to say that you wanted me to test two different applications. One was your EFI launcher.
EFI mounter.
Even EFI mounter. And then the other one was TINU, which is basically a replacement for Unibeast, right?
It's to create the ultimate Unibeast replacement. The ultimate app to defeat Unibeast because I personally don't like Unibeast, but we will talk about this later.
Right, and there are distinct reasons why someone would pick Unibeast and someone would pick TINU, but the first time I used it and created an installer, which brought me into the vanilla world more successfully, because I have tried vanilla in the past, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, it was fun testing your application. It was great. And then you told me just how smart you were and what you were doing.
Yes, I'm doing a lot of complicated stuff, very complicated stuff.
So let's get right into it. So what is, for the uninitiated out there now, I want to say that this might get technical. We're not going to explain a whole bunch of things. We're just going to present stuff to you, and if you need to do more research, then go do it. I'm not going to do the research for you. But so tell me, since you brought me into the vanilla world successfully, because I've tried it before and failed, and I always return to InsanelyMac, but you helped me succeed. So what is the difference between a vanilla Hackintosh and a InsanelyMac Hackintosh?
The main difference is that with a vanilla method, you have to do everything yourself. So you have to exactly know what are the things that your specific computer will need with macOS. For example, if you have an NVIDIA GPU or an AMD GPU or this generation of interprocessor or this other kind of interprocessor, there will change a lot all of things for the installer, for the configurations you have to use. So with the vanilla, you will have to have knowledge, or at least know someone which have that knowledge which can help you. And instead, with the InsanelyMac method, there is the simplicity. You have just to select a few options from an installer, and then it will create you automatically macOS installer which will work. But it will not use strictly the official Apple methods as we do with vanilla. But with a lot of people, this works, and because most of people in the Hackintosh don't want to learn too much, they just want to have the thing ready and working.
Right, and one of the things that's interesting with vanilla is that you really do have to pick the right SM BIOS, whereas Tony Mac, they say just like pick 14.2 or something. Use it
Yes,
for most of your builds because it kind of works. And it's true, but you
yes,
insisted that I use the right SM BIOS and make sure
yeah,
that it works with the right SM.
yes. The SM BIOS is an important thing, especially with more recent versions of macOS 10, because the SM BIOS is basically a bunch of settings, a bunch of information which will tell macOS which Mac are you running on. And this information is used by some system drivers, kexts, and other system staff to initialize correctly the system depending on the hardware in which you are running on. So, in some machines, not having the correct SM BIOS will mean not having a lot of things working. For example, sleep or USBs or power management, system stability, and some other stuff. So for the Vanilla Hackintosh, I always recommend to use the correct SM BIOS because it is important to have macOS working in the best of the ways. If you have to do an Hackintosh, I think that you have to do it right.
And you have to get a Clover configurator correct, like as you mentioned, the correct USB settings within Clover configurator. You have to get that set. The other interesting thing about vanilla is, well, one of the things that differentiates it is that you don't put any kexts into the library extension folder. Everything goes into the other folder in the EFI, correct?
Regarding the kexts, with the vanilla, it's preferred to put them inside the Clover kexts order or the kexts whatever version of macOS you have folder, because you will have with the vanilla the objective is to have a very clean macOS installation, so you will not have to modify some system folders, but some kexts needs to be installed in the system folders anyway because they need that to work. For example, some modified Wi-Fi kexts, like the modified Atheros 40 kext that I used to run my Atheros Wi-Fi card in one of the machines right there. It needs to be put specifically inside another system kext in the system kext folder because it will not work in other if I put it in other directories. And so it depends on the kext, but for most kext you can just put them inside the Clover kext other folder. And
well, you just brought up one of the issues with Hackintoshing is how on earth do we know, or how do we learn as to where these special situations require us to put the kexts in different places? I mean, generally speaking, that can only be done if you're doing a specific build and you're following a recipe for that build and you follow that recipe. But intuitively, there's no way that someone would just know where these things go unless they're an expert like Rehab Man or, you know.
Yes, but most kexts, I suggest for the kext to go and look at the pages or documentation provided by the kext developer, because the kext developer says how should be the proper way to use its kext. And also, most kexts are recommended to work inside the system kext folders, but you can just put them inside the Clover folder. There are just a bunch of kexts which will strictly required to be inside the system kext folder.
Well, I have to say that for the first time, I've actually got a QuickSync working on my Hackintoshes thanks to your vanilla version of the computers, and that's really exciting for me. It's very cool. I literally, I think, have all my Hackintoshes working exactly the way Macs would work, including Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and handoff, and being able to open my computers with my watch and things like that. So that's pretty cool. But it's not until I started talking with you and working with you that I got QuickSync working really nicely with my computers. And I swear, I might not be completely correct on this, but my computers are booting up much faster than before.
Yes, because we are using specific configuration for them. So we are trying to optimize as we can for that specific machine. So this is an advantage to get also the best performance, stability, and features out of a specific machine.
And one of the things that's a challenge in Hackintosh too is that trying to get QuickSync working. I found a formula in Hackintosher online, but then over time, half the different kexts and things that they suggested that you install aren't needed anymore because they've been taken over by Lilu and whatever green.
Yes.
But you don't know that. You go...
Yes, because the development of kexts and other supporting software on Hackintosh always goes on, always continues. So the developer of NVIDIA FixUp, Intel FixUp, Shiki, and Lilu, and whatever green decided to merge all its graphics-related kexts inside one single kext with this whatever green. So whatever green...
But my point is that why don't they phone me personally and tell me? I would really like it if they would call me and say, Paul, by the way, I did all these things. You can get rid of this other stuff. I mean, I don't care about anybody else in the world. I only care about me. And, I wish he'd be nicer.
Yeah, yes. To know that such things, you have to really follow what the developers are doing with their kexts. And so you will have to spend a lot of time in the forums looking for updates or what's changed, and that's also one of the challenges of the modern Hackintoshing. You have to really follow it to be updated about the various things.
So let's talk about creating an installer. So first of all, I will give a link at the bottom so people can get their own TINU installer. It's wonderful. One of the things I really love that you did, okay, that I think since High Sierra, the disk utility on the Mac does not let you create a GUID partition for whatever reason natively.
And that's
drives me crazy.
That's false, actually. There is a button called View on the disk utility window, which lets you to choose the entire drive and then to use GUID.
Oh.
But the real asshole here is that Apple decided to hide by default all the drives because you can see directly also all the APFS partitions. They've done this because of APFS.
Okay. So I'm just stupid.
No. It's just that things are being updated about things. Just sitting here and looking for what's changed.
Well, but what I loved about your app is that it noticed that the thumb drive that I had initialized on Journal Mac OS did not have a GUID partition and created one for me. I mean, so congratulations. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, one of the problems with applications like Unibeast or MacPown, which were the typical popular macOS installer application for Hackintosh, was that you have to go in disk utility first. I personally don't like it because you can have such problems as not to be able to know how to use GUID on your drive with the modern disk utility. So I thought I can put an automatically format inside my application TINU. It's very simple. I have just to send a couple of terminal commands hidden inside the application, and I let the system to format it for me. And so I've just used inside of TINU I use a lot the so-called disk-util command, which is an awesome command inside the Mac OS, because it lets you to do all the things that you will do in this utility, but terminal and more precisely. And
so are you saying that I don't even have to, like, so let's say I put an exFAT USB stick into my computer. I don't have to format it initially with disk utilities. TINU will do it for me?
Yes.
Wow.
TINU will detect if your USB drive does not use the correct formats and file system, and will automatically do it for you. It is very simple because I have created quite a complicated algorithm which reads all the information about your USB drive and determines which are the operations which TINU must do for it. So, for example, if it already uses GUID, you just need to format it to HFS to have the installer. It will just do it without having you to worry about it.
Well, that's okay. So we've covered that. Now, once you've created, and you've got to have the install OS in your application folder, and then it finds it, and then and it creates your installer. But you need to then start Clover bootloader and
install it.
You have to install Clover bootloader onto the USB. So that's something that's different with your setup.
Yes, for now, because it's quite complicated to do it the way I want to do it, but I'm actually working on a system to integrate automatic Clover installation made by TINU.
How do I know which of the KEXs and which of the 64-bit drivers I need to install on my TINU installer?
First, I want to say that the TINU installer is just the same thing as a terminal installer.
Right.
In fact, TINU under the hood just uses the terminal method, but TINU is automatic, does a lot of things automatically for you and more simply and in a more flexible way for you. So I just created it to let more people to go into vanilla. Now, for the Clover installation, it's not a constant thing. It changes in the time. It depends on the drivers for Clover which are developed and currently used, and also for the KEXs which are needed for that specific machine and currently supported by the developers and currently working on that version, etc., etc. And so this is a matter of knowledge, and also knowledge for your specific hardware, because, for example, things can change a lot during a few months. For example, this summer, a lot of things changes regarding KEXs and also Clover drivers, because mainly Clover drivers are influenced by the BIOS that your computer runs, but you can have some combinations which will work on many machines of drivers, so you will less have to worry about that. But sometimes they decided to change Clover drivers or updated the Clover drivers, and things can change quite a lot. For example, this summer we switched from the OS 10 Aptio driver fix family of Clover drivers from the Aptio memory fix driver, which is a really nice driver, but it requires you to update all of your FI folders to take advantage of it, because it will manage automatically what was done by choosing one of 3 drivers before. So the development on the Hackintosh side moves towards simplicity, but you have to be also updated and have knowledge. But for the knowledge side, we have also forums and also websites which will help you and are full of really gentle people which will help you and show you which are the errors that you are making and correct you and help you. And there are people like me, so that sees one of their favorite Hackintosh YouTubers using Unibeast. They says, "Oh gee," and they decide to help him, like I did.
That's true. There is a certain reaction to it, but in all honesty, there are people who it's much easier to do the Unibeast and Multibeast process, and they'll get up, going, faster, perhaps. Although you read the forums and sometimes it doesn't work. And I think part of the challenge is that I got to a point where I wanted to know. I got tired of just having stuff loaded for reasons that I didn't know what they did.
Yes.
Including, when we got rid of the Optio and moved to APFS, and why and how does that help? And then there's at one point where we no longer needed the APFS dot, what was it?
EFI.
EFI. We didn't need that anymore because the APFS
the driver loader. The APFS speech is an interesting topic because for APFS support for our Hackintoshes, first we used actually a piece of software which has been created by Apple itself, which is the APFS.EFI driver. This driver has been extracted from macOS itself, and it was made by Apple to let the older Macintoshers to support APFS while booting an installer. And it will add to the Mac BIOS some basic APFS support to boot the installer, and then the installer can also update the Mac firmware to have native APFS support out of it. But as Hackintoshers, we have used that APFS driver as a Clover driver to let our Hackintoshes to recognize APFS quickly. In fact, I remember the first day in which we had APFS support on macOS with the first developer beta of High Sierra, and that the same day I got that first beta running on a Hackintosh. And to achieve APFS support on the internet, the developers says just put that APFS, that EFI driver inside your Clover drivers folder. But we had Nita as the initially APFS on Hackintosh had some problems because an Hackintosh is not a Mac. So you will lose things like the Apple firmware, the firmware which is built inside every single Mac. So because of that firmware was missing at the beginning of the APFS era, let's call it in this way, there was a problem with that missing firmware. So there was people with APFS not working, or even file system corruption because APFS was looking for some specific firmware features, which if they were not here, if that features were not present, APFS will just behave strangely and cause some file system corruption.
And at the very beginning, every single update to the OS, the APFS had to be extracted and then put into the driver folder every single time.
Yes, but you can just use the earlier one, but of course having always the updated one is the best. But at a certain point, Apple decided to no longer update the APFS driver because they thought it's fine, it's working for our Macintoshes, so we do not longer need to update it. But the real difference with the APFS the Hackintosh has been with some third-party APFS drivers like APFS loader.efi, which is based on actually a disassembly. So they took all the code, or they have reverse engineered the Apple APFS driver and created an Hackintosh specific version for Hackintosh purposes. And they disabled just a bunch of things that are not needed on Hackintosh, like some debug prints for some errors, which may be because of the missing Apple firmware. But it is working fine.
So I think part of the lesson there is if you're a pro Hackintosher like Pietro here, then go experiment, you know, whenever.
Yeah, yes.
But if you're someone like me, that I'm actually doing work on my computer, I didn't wait to update. I waited till High Sierra 13.6 when all this Aptio stuff was sorted out before I updated, because it just looked like it's insane. And I have to say that Mojave, it's night and day. This is maybe the best Hackintosh OS I have ever experienced.
Mojave is a very friendly Hackintosh operating system because it just works fine. It is not much different from High Sierra. So we have much of the development ready from High Sierra, and we have just to port it to Mojave. Of course, there are some limitations with the Mojave because that geniuses at Apple decided to cut some compatibility with older machines because they are planning to use Metal as their only graphics API inside macOS. So with Mojave, they have cut all the machines which can't support Metal out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And the only older machine they are still officially supporting is the Mac Pro, the old style Mac Pro, which is also a machine that I love it. Because in that machine you can actually upgrade the graphics, so you can make your Mac ready for using Metal.
Although I have to say that on my other Hackintosh, I've got an R9 2080X, which is the same as the 700 series card in the Trashintosh, and it indicates that Metal isn't supported, the bastards. Anyway, let's wrap this up.
This is strange because it should be.
It should be. We'll work on that together later. So Pietro, I know that a lot of people are going to bug us as to just what the Clover bootloader configurations have to be when you're installing Clover bootloader on the USB stick. We're not going to get into that now. What I suggest is we're going to download TINU, try it, and find out from InsanelyMac and Hackintosher, your specific motherboard and graphics card, and what Clover bootloader drivers and kexts you need for it. Load it onto the USB stick, and then when you build your Hackintosh, all you need to do is copy the EFI folder from your USB stick onto the EFI folder of your computer, and you've got a working computer, which is very different from the other method, which requires you to start a different piece of software to customize the computer. One of the things I like about Vanilla is that the EFI folder on your USB drive is exactly the same as the EFI folder on your computer.
Yes, this is actually one more things of mine, because I use this method of using the exact same configurations you have to use for the installed system for the USB drive. And actually this can be done with the Unibeast method, but you have to modify the EFI folder created by Unibeast and add all the missing features to let it work for a finished system.
Okay, I can see that you're excited, but now we're moving into other territories. You know what this means? I think they're going to want us to do another video together. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to end it now.
Should be great.
Because I think we have filled and we have filled everybody's brains with new information. hopefully they'll go out and have some fun. And thank you so much, number one, for being on this little video with me, and also for helping me with going vanilla. So so long from Canada. Arrivederci.
And from Italy, goodbye.